Rings of Power is the most expensive show ever created, and yet it faced massive criticism. People did not like the changes to the source material, a lot of the cast members were mediocre, and overall, it was just a really bad series. And now things might be getting even worse for them because Amazon and the Tolkien estate have been hit with a $250 million lawsuit over the show. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So this is a giant freaking robot article set well before the adventures of Frodo Baggins. The Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of Power, gave us a kind of extended origin story for how Sauron became the big bad in Middle-earth. In the real world, many have jokingly likened Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to Sauron, but there is a chance that our own Dark Lord might have finally met his match. As reported by Radar Online, a writer named Demetrius Polychron has filed a $250 million lawsuit against Bezos, several Amazon studio execs, and Tolkien's estate, alleging copyright infringement. Now, it does seem like, yes, this lawsuit is centering around the Rings of Power, which is honestly hilarious to me. This whole situation is pretty hilarious. Rings of Power was so far from Tolkien's source material, it's crazy. While yes, a lot of the names are the same, and obviously the locations are the same, there were a lot of story changes, so much so that a lot of Tolkien fans refused to watch this series because it was so different. It says, while adding quite a few unique twists and characters, the show is generally following the story laid out in Lord of the Rings creators Tolkien's Silmarillion. Why then is a writer suing for copyright infringement over a show that based much of its story on a book first published back in 1977? As you might expect, this is where things start to get weird. This individual has been a fan of Lord of the Rings for much of his life, and he actually has written to the Tolkien estate before saying that he's such a massive fan of the originally published material, and he's basically a Lord of the Rings fan fiction writer. I think that's the best way to put it. His book is titled The Fellowship of the King, and he's got a 7-book series, or at least he planned to do a full 7 books, that he called The War of the Rings. He's even got characters in it that are named things like Sauron and Aragorn. Now, obviously, $250 million is a big chunk of change. That is a lot of money. And, of course, after hearing a lot of the general details, like the name of his book is titled The Fellowship of the King, and it surrounds the War of the Rings, and he's even written to the Tolkien estate before, a lot of people are viewing this as a joke, and I have to agree. I personally think that this individual wanted attention, and he knew that a lot of people are very upset over the Rings of Power, and that people are looking to basically crap on Amazon as much as possible, so he viewed this as a golden opportunity to get a lot of press, just to get a lot of attention on his books. And I feel like it's kind of backfired for him, because I don't like Amazon, okay? I would love to see Amazon lose lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit with Rings of Power. I would love for Rings of Power Season 2 to never release and for them to erase Season 1's existence, but there's no way that he is going to win this against Amazon. It says that he attempted, because he first sent a letter to Christopher Tolkien explaining how much he loved Lord of the Rings and requesting that Tolkien read his book. He sent no response, and then the individual tried to make contact again 2 years later via his lawyer. Now, after Amazon released The Rings of Power in hopes of it becoming a Hollywood hit, Polychron alleged that much of it is basically ripped off from his book. He did create new characters for his novel, presumably so it wouldn't come off as Lord of the Rings fan fiction, though at least in my opinion it definitely is, and his lawsuit claims these wholly original, distinct and separate characters and storylines compose as much as one half of the 8-episode series. He even claims that the series uses some of the exact language that he uses in his own book. I think that this is truly hilarious. I love to get a good laugh every once in a while, and this really did me in. And of course, a lot of people have taken to social media to just kind of roast this individual and his book. Hey, I guess ultimately if he's hoping for more press, he's gotten it, because as someone who has never heard of his books, I'm fairly interested. I don't think that I'm going to buy a copy, but I'm at least interested in what he's creating. But Fellowship of the Fans had made a post about this, and people here are just kind of laughing, saying, you know, I don't know where he's expecting to go with this, but it's not going to work. His name sounds like a spell from Harry Potter, and I do have to generally agree. Now, one thing that I think could come out of this situation, actually, is the delay of Rings of Power Season 2. Obviously, Amazon's put a lot of time and money into this series, and they are currently filming Season 2, but if there is a lawsuit this massive against them, there is the potential that it could ultimately get delayed, that they might have to take a couple extra months before releasing Season 2, because I do think that this lawsuit is going to ultimately get thrown out, and it is not going to work, and it's just going to be a waste of everyone's time. But there is a chance that something could affect Rings of Power production here. This is the silliest thing I've ever heard. Book 2 and 3 of this author, no doubt titled The Dual Towers and Return of the Ring. It's just such a silly situation. It really, truly is. But again, I hate Amazon. I hate what they did with Tolkien's work. I could care less if they lose this lawsuit. I would love for them to lose it. I just don't see a way that that's going to happen, though, and a lot of other people don't as well. As this situation progresses, I will definitely be covering it. Demetrius has not made a statement about this on social media yet, but if he does, I will be making a follow-up video and talking about it. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.